What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Sweet Beat TV. I'm your host, Sienna Leone, and today I am so excited to say Laura Marano is joining me yet again. Laura, how are you?
I am so many feelings right now. I'm so happy this album is out. I'm also so tired and so overwhelmed. And to be honest, I've been a bit emotional. Hopefully, I've kind of calmed down a little bit, but it's been an emotional few hours.
I can only imagine, but every time we talk, I'm just so blown away by your work ethic because it's new project after new project and in-depth projects as well. So looking at this album, Laura, your debut album, I may be an actress, but I can't fake how I feel. Your fans are going to be seeing 23 songs on this album. I mean, before this interview, I literally was like, that's wild. So walk me through that. 23 songs.
So, a few things, okay? I have been working on this debut album for years. I also released EPs, beforehand as kind of my first foray into, by the way, because I'm sleep deprived, I might be using words that are incorrect and I just want all to be on the same page about that. I don't know if foray works in that sentence, but we're gonna just pretend it does.
Let's go with it.
We're gonna go with it, okay? I released 3 EPs first because one, I think I was scared to release an album, if I'm being honest. And 2, I think I had signed with labels, one label, and then signed with another label, and then really didn't release music for 2 years. And so I very much was like, okay, I want to release something that people can get a little bit of a taste of music from me, but not do a debut album quite yet. So I say all that because yes, I have been releasing music, even though some people might not know it because I've been doing it independently. I've been slowly but surely releasing music over the years. However, this debut album is such a long time coming, and I felt very called to just give my heart, my blood, my sweat, my tears, my entire everything to everybody, because I've had a lot of hardcore fans who have been so patient for this. So in my head, I'm kind of this is the debut album and the second one all rolled into one. However, I also will say, I think truly I cut songs, believe it or not, out of this album. I know when you first hear 23 tracks, it's a little overwhelming and a little oh, that seems like a lot. But I really feel strongly, obviously a little biased, that every song works and serves a purpose in this album. It also is full of fairly short songs. So when we hear 23 tracks, or kind of how long is that? It's really only just a little over an hour. Which even for some people that might be long. But I, on TikTok actually the other day had a whole little I was gonna say diagram. I really didn't have a diagram, but an instructional video of if you need to take time with it and listen in blocks or acts, this is what I would suggest.
Wow. I mean, looking at this, so looking at cutting down songs, how many would you say there were from the beginning? What were you cutting down from?
So this is a strange process because most albums, right, you start working on it at one point and you're just working on that album for the amount of time you're working on it, and then you release it, right? That's how I assume it would go. I have had a very different experience, right? My first label experience, that was it. We were working towards a debut album, didn't happen. Second label experience, same thing, working towards a debut album, didn't happen. So I bring that all up because in a lot of ways, this debut album is 8 years in the making. So you have songs from the earliest song on the album I wrote in 2015. The latest song on the album I wrote in June 27th of 2023 of this year. So there is a huge time span of songs that I've written over the years, and I've written a lot of songs. I have written, I'm not exaggerating, probably a couple hundred songs. So it is a huge bucket of songs to kind of decide between. There were definitely some songs, there are some songs that I was not considering at all, but there are definitely some songs that I had shown to fans in the past, in different like listening parties, especially during the pandemic. I did like virtual things and leaked songs. And there were a couple songs there that I was conflicted about maybe putting on the album, maybe not, and ultimately decided not to. Those, I would say there probably were like 5 to 10 additional songs that I had considered maybe putting on this album. But it was a weird writing process. I mean, this is not, to my knowledge, the typical experience of when you're writing an album.
Yeah, I mean, my next question would be kind of hard for you to answer and really pinpoint, it sounds like, because when you work on something for 8 years, you can't really say where's this inspiration for this album coming, because you've probably lived so many different chapters of your life in personal, work, love. So if you could pinpoint that, what would you just say as your life as a whole?
I actually, funny enough, the crazy thing about this whole album and why I think, again, biased of course, but why I think it works is the inspiration came quite early on in terms of there still are a lot of songs that were written this year or in the last like year and a half. So I, first kind of became officially felt compelled to release an album when I was working on my last EP, the Us EP. And that EP was heavily inspired by my breakup. And I just couldn't stop writing about it. I was like so inspired and really writing heavily about it. And I started noticing that I was writing also a little bit about how kind of my career affected our relationship and had there was a little bit of a theme there in some ways. And I thought that was interesting. And then I remember kind of getting inspired all of a sudden by not my last relationship and by just feelings in general, and wanting to write songs about like different, low points that I was feeling or different struggles I was having that was very separate from my relationship. And I thought that was like kind of interesting because I was like, I really have only written really about relationships or, I'm like trying to think of all the songs I put out, and I feel like, I released a song in my first record deal that wasn't necessarily about a relationship. It was, about kind of not turning away from criticism. I definitely have had other songs where I guess I was also inspired by not romantic relationships necessarily. But for the first time, this past year, or even like a year and a half ago, I was feeling inspired to write about the relationship I had with myself and the relationship I had with my career and the relationship I had with my identity because of that career. And I got really inspired to build the whole album around that. So yes, there are songs for sure that are from an earlier time, but I listen to every song with the lens and the context of how does this relate to the overall message that I want to send with this album.
Absolutely. So beautifully said. And Laura, looking at your career, you have been in this industry for a while, okay? And when I say, I mean, you have fans that have been there, that have been loyal to you, that have followed your journey. And I think it's really beautiful because I have joined in on one of your listening parties that you did over Zoom, and you prioritize your fans. And I think from an outsider looking in, it's so beautiful. And I think people and your fans love you even more for it because you care about what they think. You really care about how they're feeling. I don't know. It's a really beautiful thing to watch as not just an artist, an actress, a musician, but as a human being too. So that being said, with all these fans that have followed you and are on this journey with you, what do you think people are going to find from I may be an actress, but I can't fake how I feel that, they're going to be learning about you or haven't seen in the past projects?
It's really personal. It is like uncomfortably personal. And, you know, I've already seen some reactions from fans, which has just, it made me feel so many things, but mostly happy and grateful. But I think people, fans, friends, family members, anyone who hears us, strangers, they're either gonna feel very connected to it because they're feeling something similar, or they're gonna feel like, wow, I have stepped into a room of just me and this girl basically like just crying in front of me, and it's a little uncomfortable. I feel like those are gonna be the two reactions. And I think, I don't know if things that I say in this album are gonna shock people necessarily or shock those fans, but I do feel like this is a definitely more personal and intimate side of myself that I don't think they have been privy to before necessarily.
So that being said, this may be one of your most personal projects yet. 23 songs. I know this is a loaded question, and every one of these is probably your baby, but favorite song on this 23 song album?
Oh my God! You know that's a hard question.
I'm setting you up here, but if you had to choose.
I think Someday is a very important song to me. That was one that I was writing during the Us EP, that process, that I was like, this is a really special one, and I'm not sure I'm ready to share it yet, but I will share it. And it's the song I also actually helped produce on the album. So I was like part of so many aspects. I mean, I'm pretty heavily involved in most aspects because I'm such a control freak, but this was like the only one where I was kind of like on the tools and recording stuff. And, you know, I really am just so proud of that whole song. There's still things, I mean, God, we worked on it for like 2 years, and there's still things I hear where I was like, oh, I'd change this, or I'd like, on technical levels, I like make this part a little quieter and this part a little louder and this and blah, blah, blah. But I really am so proud of that song, and it's just a really special one to me. I think the interludes, which are the most like recently written, even if I got kind of ideas about them like 2 years ago or whatever, I'm really proud of those. The Internet Part 2 interlude, which is Act 2, the Internet Scene 2. I'm really particularly proud of that one because I also just feel it's really weird. Like, it starts really weird. We recorded the first part of the vocals in a bathroom. And I loved what we were able to do with it, and I really love how personal it is.
I mean, such a beautiful album, and also the title of the album, that stuck out to me. I mean, it's a cool title. Tell me about that really quick.
Yes, it's so funny. People have such, which I think is, I appreciate actually. People have really strong reactions, like not lukewarm. It's either they love the title or they're like, I hate it and it's really weird. So I love it, obviously. I felt very conflicted about whether I was gonna use the whole thing or not. Essentially, it comes from a lyric from the first song of the album. And, you know, the lyric is, I may be an actress, so I can't fake how I feel. It gets set up, you know, differently in each pre-chorus. But I loved that lyric so much. And when I wrote that lyric, I remember just feeling like, this is what my album's gonna be about. Like, this literally just, this is it. And then I had such an intense struggle of like, do I cut it up? Do I say I may be an actress, ... or fake how I feel, or just feel, or, you know, do I just take part of it? And every iteration I try to make, it just felt lame. Like, it just didn't feel right. It didn't encapsulate what I wanted it to say. So I was like, screw it, we're gonna go with the whole thing.
I think it honestly, like, it almost, like, it just makes this personal, very personal album project to you feel a bit more raw and real. So I think it matches the theme perfectly, really.
Okay, yay. Well, I do feel I just went for it in every aspect of it. I was like, I'm just gonna literally do, because I'm doing this independently, whatever I want to do. Went with a super long title, went with a super long track list. So I feel like it, at least when you hear the title, you're a little set up that you're about to hear a really long track list because you have the longest title in the world. So,
Every aspect of it just fits perfectly, and it's a really beautiful project. I am so happy for you, and so many congratulations.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And I love Sweetie High. Sienna, you've always been so wonderful and good to me. And I'm so happy I get to celebrate this album with you guys.
There you go, Laura Marano debut album, 23 songs, you guys. You will find they are beautiful, they are raw, they are real. I May Be an Actress, but I Can't Fake How I Feel is out now. Go stream it, go show it some love. Laura, we love you, and if you guys like this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to us down below. Thank you so much for your time, Laura.
Thank you.